The late October sun stretched golden fingers across the glass walls of Hawthorne Consulting Group, casting long shadows over the sleek surfaces of Carter Hawthorne's corner office. He sat back in his leather chair, neck stiff from 12 straight hours of contracts, strategy decks, and client calls. The final deal of the day had just closed, a multi-year retainer with a Fortune 500 logistics firm. A win, one of many. 15 years ago, he was working from a rented desk in the back of a failing print shop, surviving on fast food and nothing but ambition. Now, his firm controlled 3 floors of downtown Atlanta's financial district, and he had a home big enough to echo. But success, it seemed, didn't guarantee loyalty. His phone buzzed. Sterling, his wife. Or rather, a message from his friend Sterling Jameson, a name that still stung with irony these days. Working late again? Lauren says you must not know how to delegate. Lauren, her business mentor, a man Carter had never trusted. His smooth-talking bravado and show-off wealth made Carter's skin crawl. But every time he voiced concern, Sterling dismissed it. He's just successful. You're being insecure. But it wasn't insecurity. It was instinct. And that instinct began screaming louder the day Lauren started showing up at their home, pouring her wine and giving Carter that smug little nod like he already owned the place. The drive home took him past the building where he started his company. A crumbling brick structure now home to a vape shop and pawnbroker. It used to symbolize hustle. Now it reminded him of humility, something his wife had apparently outgrown. When Carter pulled into the driveway of their 5-bedroom Roswell Colonial, the house was dark. No lights, no warmth, no dinner waiting, not even their daughter Brielle's voice echoing from the TV room. Just cold silence. He loosened his tie and walked through the house. Each step on the hardwood floors louder than the last. The silence wasn't just unsettling, it felt deliberate. Then he saw it. In his study, resting on the edge of his otherwise immaculate desk, Sterling's tablet. She never left that thing out of sight. She changed her passwords weekly, locked it with biometrics, and treated it like a sacred object. Yet here it was, screen pulsing, unlocked, left behind. At first, he told himself not to look. Then he saw the message. You look stunning in that dress, darling. Your husband's probably still at his little office counting pennies while we enjoy the finer things. Lauren. Attached was a photo. Sterling, wrapped in a silky black cocktail dress he'd never seen before, legs draped over Lauren's lap on what looked like a yacht deck, champagne flute in hand, laughing. His chest hollowed out. He swiped upward, hands trembling but driven by fury and disbelief. There were months of messages. Secret hotel bookings in Buckhead, payments labeled interior design, routed from their joint account to Lauren's LLC, even photos of Brielle shopping with him. Carter sat down slowly, the weight of betrayal sinking in, his heart pounding like war drums in his ears. They had chosen luxury. They had chosen lies. They had chosen Lauren, but he was done choosing forgiveness. Carter Hawthorne wasn't just a man with a broken heart. He was a man with resources. A man who built an empire from dust. And he was about to show them both what it felt like to lose everything. By morning, Carter was no longer heartbroken. He was cold. Sharp, dangerously clear. The man who built an 8-figure consulting empire from a second-hand laptop wasn't about to weep in his own house while his wife and daughter played house with a fraud. He didn't confront Sterling. Not yet. He had learned long ago. Never interrupt an enemy when they think they're winning. Instead, he got dressed for work with exacting care, charcoal gray suit, black leather briefcase, crisp white shirt. The uniform of control. By 7:45 a.m., he was in his car, Bluetooth syncing as he placed a call. Marcus Whitlow. His financial advisor answered on the first ring. Don't speak. Just listen, Carter said, calm but deadly. I want you to initiate Phase 7 on every joint asset. Reassign holdings into separate trusts under my name. Lock down the Hawthorne Educational Fund. Today. A pause. Then Marcus's voice. Understood. She won't know what hit her. By 9 a.m., he was in his lawyer's office. Carla Monroe, a beast in a tailored navy blazer, sat across from him sipping black coffee. You want to file today? She asked, scanning the evidence folder Carter handed her. I want everything filed, sealed, and on record before she even knows I looked at that damn tablet. Carla flipped through photos, texts, financial transfers. Affair with Lauren Banks. Financial fraud using joint funds. Possible manipulation of your minor daughter's inheritance trust. Carter met her eyes. File for exclusive use of the home. Full financial audit. I want it tight, clean, legal, and lethal. Meanwhile, Sterling was out shopping in Buckhead Village with Brielle, sipping overpriced coffee and pretending the world was hers. Brielle, their 16-year-old daughter, clung to Lauren like he was some father figure guru, obsessed with his shallow charm and money. She'd been drifting from Carter for a year now, rolling her eyes at Dad's boring work ethic, idolizing Lauren's rented jets and filtered lifestyle. She thought she was leveling up. Carter would let them think so, for now. Back at the office, Carter made one more call. Detective Rhonda Kellis, Atlanta PD. She picked up, surprised. Carter Hawthorne? You don't usually call unless something's burning. It's about to be, Carter said. I need a private investigator. Someone quiet, discreet, high level. She didn't ask questions. I'll send you a name. By 6 p.m., Carter was home, pouring a drink in the silent kitchen when Sterling finally walked in, glowing, laughing at something on her phone. She didn't even look up. Not even when he said, quietly, I saw the tablet. She froze mid-step. And he smiled, not because he was happy. Because he knew, her game was already over. Sterling stood frozen in the doorway, the autumn air still clinging to her silk blouse. Her phone slipped slightly in her hand. The screen still lit up with a heart emoji from Lauren. Carter took a slow sip of his bourbon, watching her. His gaze was unreadable. No yelling. No tears. Just silence. A silence that felt far more dangerous than rage. I saw the tablet. 3 seconds of silence. Then her voice cracked like brittle glass. Carter, I can explain. Don't, he cut in, setting the glass down gently on the counter. Please don't insult both of us with that. Sterling's hand gripped the edge of the island. It wasn't what it looked like. You were on his lap. In a dress I didn't buy. On a boat I didn't charter. Paid for with money I earned. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. For once, she had no script. The sound of footsteps on the stairs broke the tension. Brielle entered the kitchen, AirPods in, backpack slung lazily over one shoulder. Mom, did you get the necklace Lauren showed me online? She stopped, seeing Carter. Her face dropped, suddenly defensive. What? She said. Why are you looking at me like that? Carter looked at her the way a father looks at a daughter he doesn't recognize. You knew, he said softly. Didn't you? Brielle hesitated. Mom said it wasn't a big deal. They're just close. Close? He echoed. He took you to look at colleges. He used my money to rent a Bentley to take my daughter to lunch at a steakhouse she's too young to order from. You smiled in pictures with him like he was family. Brielle looked at her mother, who was now as pale as the marble countertop. You said it wasn't serious, she whispered. Sterling tried to step forward. Brielle, baby, I didn't want to tell you everything. You're not. Don't, Carter said, his voice sharp now. She's 16, Sterling. Old enough to know what a lie smells like. He walked over to a drawer, pulled out a thick envelope, and tossed it onto the counter. Inside, papers. Dozens of them. Frozen bank accounts. Trust revisions. A motion for exclusive use of the house. His signature. His attorney's letterhead. Sterling opened it with shaking hands. Effective immediately, he said, voice calm. You're no longer authorized on any family funds. Your cards are frozen. The trust fund Brielle used for school trips? That's been locked until further review. What the hell is this? She hissed. You can't just. I already did. Brielle looked stunned. Wait, what about my car? You'll be returning it tomorrow. It's in my name. And your phone plan, your credit card, your apartment-style dorm, those were never yours. They were mine. And I've done financing disloyalty. Sterling's voice cracked. Carter, you're destroying your daughter's future. No, he snapped. You did that the second you dragged her into your fantasy. He took his coat from the chair and walked to the door. Where are you going? Sterling demanded. To a place where respect still exists. He paused in the doorway. One more thing, he added without turning back. Pack a bag. Both of you. You have 48 hours to vacate. The house? That stays with me. And with that, Carter was gone. The echo of the slammed door lingered long after Carter left. Sterling sat in stunned silence at the kitchen island. The envelope of court filings and financial freezes still spread before her like wreckage. Her carefully manicured fingers gripped the edges of the counter until her knuckles turned white. Across from her, Brielle stood frozen. Mom, what do we do now? The answer came 48 hours later, as the movers, hired by Carter's lawyers, arrived to carry out court-approved enforcement of the property orders. Sterling watched, speechless, as the Mercedes SUV Brielle loved was loaded onto a flatbed. Brielle ran out in leggings and a hoodie, screaming, "Wait, that's my car." The driver shook his head. "Not anymore, miss. Title's in Mr. Hawthorne's name." Sterling couldn't even argue. Carter had made sure every asset was traceable, and the court had honored every single claim. By the end of the day, they were out. Not just out of the house, but out of the life they thought they owned. They moved into a cramped, 2-bedroom rental apartment in Sandy Springs, the kind with popcorn ceilings, squeaky floors, and outdated appliances. Sterling had to pawn 2 designer handbags just to pay the deposit. Gone were the spa days, the wine club, the private tennis lessons. Gone was the money. Gone was the illusion. Brielle didn't take it well. Her social media feeds quickly filled with half-hearted captions like, "Taking a break to focus on myself," and "Real ones know what matters." But her private group chats were brutal. Her so-called friends had already jumped ship, unfollowing, whispering, laughing. At school, she was no longer the girl with the Range Rover and front-row concert tickets. She was the girl whose mom slept with the mentor and whose dad took everything. Brielle started skipping school. Sterling stopped asking why. Meanwhile, Lauren? He was gone. After Carter filed a fraud complaint and attached evidence of misused business funds, Lauren's image as a flashy entrepreneur crumbled. Investors pulled out. His 2 luxury rentals, the yacht and the penthouse, were seized. When Sterling called him, desperate, he didn't answer. When she texted, the read receipt stopped showing up. When she emailed, it bounced. Lauren Banks had vanished. That night, Sterling stood in the tiny apartment kitchen, holding a half-empty glass of store-brand wine, staring at her reflection in the microwave door. No makeup. Dark circles. Nothing left to pretend with. How did I end up here? But deep down, she knew. Carter didn't take everything. He took back what was his. What she chose to gamble with. Brielle slammed the bathroom door after a screaming match about money for a school field trip. And Sterling sat down alone at the wobbly kitchen table, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. She had traded a husband who built a life for a man who sold her a fantasy. And now that fantasy had become her prison. The house was quiet now, but this time, it was the kind of quiet Carter liked. Peaceful. Intentional. No more fake laughter echoing down the halls. No more secrets tucked into hidden message threads or shared wine glasses with strangers. Just him, and his space. Carter stood barefoot on the back deck of the Roswell home he'd reclaimed, the late November air crisp against his skin. The fire pit crackled softly beside him, its warmth licking the cool air as he stared out into the pine trees behind the property. He didn't miss Sterling. Not really. What he missed was what he thought they were. But now, in the absence of her lies, he could finally see how hollow that illusion had become. Each day since their departure, Carter rebuilt, not just his home, but himself. He'd canceled the catering services, downsized his private driver, and started doing his own grocery shopping. It wasn't about money, it was about control. About grounding himself again. He made his own damn coffee now. And it tasted better than it ever had. At work, his team noticed the change. Sharper focus. Cleaner energy. No more late-night distractions or tension clouding his decisions. He walked into meetings with clarity, handled clients with calm confidence, and smiled, genuinely smiled, for the first time in months. "You good, boss?" His assistant, Jordan, asked one afternoon, peeking in with a grin. Carter looked up from a pitch deck. Never better. And it wasn't a lie. One evening, Sterling called. Blocked number. Voicemail. "Carter, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Brielle's struggling. I know you probably don't care anymore, but she misses you." "I miss you. I was stupid. We were stupid. I see that now." He didn't call back. Instead, he spent that weekend helping his godson build a wooden playhouse in his backyard. The following Sunday, he accepted a dinner invitation from Nia Candon, the project manager who'd recently transferred from the firm's New York branch. Nia was everything Sterling wasn't, thoughtful, grounded, quiet with her confidence. She didn't flirt. She didn't fawn. She listened. Over steak and red wine, they talked about their childhoods, about their parents, about what ambition can cost when you stop paying attention. At the end of the night, Carter didn't try to kiss her. But he did walk her to her car, and when she smiled and said, "I hope we can do this again," he realized something deep in his chest had shifted. Later that night, back on his deck, he wrote in the same leather journal he'd once used for business notes, "I lost a family I thought was real. But I found myself again. That's worth more than anything they walked away with." He closed the book, leaned back, and looked up at the stars. And for the first time in a long, long time, Carter Hawthorne didn't feel angry. The beige walls of the Sandy Springs apartment felt closer every day. The air was heavy, stale, a far cry from the scented candles, fresh orchids, and sunlit hallways of the Roswell home she used to live in. Brielle Hawthorne sat cross-legged on her mattress on the floor. No bed frame, no headboard, just a mattress, 2 pillows, and a growing list of unspoken regrets. The TikToks she used to post, iced coffee, car selfies, Lauren's penthouse views, had dried up. Her followers unfollowed. Her best friend Alina stopped replying. Now her phone stayed cold. Quiet. And for once, Brielle had no one to blame but herself. She hadn't spoken to her dad in over 3 weeks. Not since he took the car keys, canceled her phone line, and locked down every ounce of his generosity. At first, she'd been furious. Let him be petty, she'd snapped at her mother. He just wants to punish us. But deep down, a question had started to grow. One she couldn't ignore anymore. Was he punishing her, or protecting himself from her? She remembered the night Lauren took her and Sterling to that rooftop gala in Buckhead. The champagne flowed, her mother laughed like she was 20 again, and Lauren handed Brielle a diamond necklace like it was candy. "You're Hawthorne royalty," he'd said. But now, Lauren was gone. The necklace? Pawned. The dresses? Returned or rotting in bags. The dream? Dead. One night, Brielle found herself scrolling through old photos on her mom's iPad. There was one from Thanksgiving 2 years ago. Her dad, smiling in a plaid apron, holding a burnt turkey like it was a trophy. Her arm wrapped around his waist. Her head against his chest. Her smile was real. So was his. She stared at it for 10 minutes straight before she finally whispered, "I miss you, Dad." Later that week, she walked out of school and sat on the curb by the flagpole. Cold wind bit at her cheeks as she pulled out her cracked phone. She typed the number from memory. Paused. Pressed call. It rang. Then clicked. "Hello?" His voice hit her like a wave. She nearly hung up. But she didn't. "Dad, it's me." A pause. Then softer. "Hey, Bri." She swallowed. "I know you probably don't want to talk to me. But I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything." Carter didn't respond immediately. Then, "That means more than you know." They didn't say much after that. But before he hung up, he added, "If you ever want to come by, for dinner, or just to talk, the door's still open." And for the first time in months, Brielle cried. Not because she was angry. Not because she was entitled. But because she realized, she still had a father. And maybe, a second chance. He felt whole. Carter stood in the kitchen again, apron tied, sleeves rolled, knife steady as he diced fresh herbs. Salmon. Roasted asparagus. Brielle's favorite lemon orzo. It had been a long time since he cooked for someone other than himself. And even longer since it felt like it mattered. She arrived just after 6 p.m. No chauffeur. No polished leather heels. Just Brielle, in a hoodie, backpack slung over one shoulder, eyes heavy with something Carter hadn't seen in her in over a year. Humility. "Hey," she said softly at the door. "Hey," he replied, stepping aside. No hug. No speech. Just shared silence, and the smell of real food. Dinner was awkward at first. She poked at the salmon. He refilled her water. They talked about school. About the SATs. About how her math teacher had the same coffee-stained tie every Monday. And then, "Do you hate me?" She asked it so suddenly, Carter nearly dropped his fork. He looked up. Her eyes shimmered. He didn't answer right away. Did he hate her? No. He hated what she'd become. But not the girl who used to run down the stairs to show him straight A's. Not the daughter who once cried when he missed her piano recital because of a delayed flight. He took a breath. No, Bree. I don't hate you. I was disappointed, heartbroken, but not once did I stop being your dad. She wiped her cheek with her sleeve, trying not to cry. Mom said you'd moved on. That you'd never forgive me. He set his fork down. Your mother's good at rewriting stories when they don't end the way she wants. Meanwhile, in that dim Sandy Springs apartment, Sterling sat alone at a silent kitchen table, poking at microwaved pasta with a plastic fork. Her daughter hadn't come home for dinner. No text. No update. Just silence. She'd checked Find My iPhone earlier. Brielle was back in Roswell. At his house. Sterling poured a glass of cheap wine and leaned back in her chair. The ceiling fan above clicked with each slow rotation, the only sound in the apartment. They'll come back, she whispered to herself. They always do. But even she didn't believe that anymore. Back in Roswell, Carter and Brielle moved to the couch with mugs of peppermint tea and an old movie they used to watch every December, Planes, Trains and Automobiles. And for the first time in a long time, Carter heard it again, the sound that had once been the center of his universe. His daughter's laugh.